Hey guys, Dillysaures here with another Demon Hunter guide video, and today we'll be going over the Demon Hunter support. And thankfully, we have finally been implemented back into greater rift groups that are 4-mans. We're exceptional at speed, but for the first part of season 5 we have definitely been left out. So, as of recently, through a few demon hunters, we've been testing, doing different sorts of builds, testing every single type of ability. We have finally come down, to the most part, for a build. And there's a few variations, everyone has their own take on it. And today we're going to go over what I feel is the best for support demon hunter for group play. So, we'll get right to the skills and the build of the class. So I'm using Elemental Arrow, Ball, Lightning. And you may remember, if you tried to make Demon Hunter viable last season, is we tried to use Ball, Lightning in groups to proc Monk's Static Charge. And that was with Ball, Lightning, and a few other things. And it's still the same thing, it's proc coefficiency. So one of our highest proc coefficiencies is Elemental Arrow, Ball, Lightning. And what that does for us is we shoot our little blue ball and it moves along slowly thanks to a piece of gear, and that allows up to multiple ticks on an enemy for the highest chance to proc globes. And globes are the name of the entire game of Rifts now, and it's just proc globes for your wizard so your wizard can kill everything. So that this slow ball, as we call it, is a great part of the build. So for our primary left clicky, whatever you want to call it, we'll be using slow ball, ball lightning. Our right click, or whatever you want to call it, I mean, you can put it wherever you want, but our second hatred user is going to be multi-shot wind chill. And the reason why multi-shot wind chill is so nice is wizards don't, they're the tornadoes. They're not critting off of, our crit chance. And why I say this is multi-shots wind chill is it slows everything, so it chills them, and it gives them a 15% chance to be crit for 3 seconds. So 3 seconds after they're hit by our wind chill multi-shot, they are 15% more likely to be crit. So that applies that debuff. And while it doesn't help the wizard particularly, what it does is for the other 0 DPS in the group, which is a barb and a monk, because Demon Hunter is taking the witch doctor spot, it allows them to crit more, and them critting more equals more globes. So the more crit, the higher chances of crit equals more globes, which means more DPS for the wizard. So our multi-shot wind chill is pretty locked in. It's just so good that we supply crit chance not only for the other classes, the barb and the monk, but also gives us crit chance, which we will be proccing globes as well. So that even helps with our elemental arrow ball, lightning, our slow ball. So that's great. Our next is vault, and there's all sorts of vaults like normal, but what we're going to be using is rattling roll. And the reason we use rattling roll is we are going to be using the strong arms with this build, so rattling roll is our way of getting the knockback needed for strong arms to proc to give the additional damage. So this is our proc, and it's also our way of moving around. So vault rattling roll is a must. The spike trap echoing blast, so what it does is it lays down a spike trap. After, was it 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, it activates and it lets off a cold blast, and everyone within 8 yards of it is frozen for 3 seconds. And what that also does is not only does it CC for 3 seconds, but it also makes it so they take 20% increased damage. And while this does DR, and every single time that you hit them, they aren't going to be frozen, but even though they're not being frozen, the 20% damage is being applied every single time. So whether or not they're frozen, they are still taking the additional 20% damage. So next is our Marked for Death. And Marked for Death, I use Valley of Death because we do use a Calamity with this build, but since Marked for Deaths do stack, I feel since everything's going to be coated with your Marked for Death, the group that the Monk and the Barb specifically pull into a certain area, usually against a wall or in a corner, you can mark that specific area. So everything in there not only takes, the normal 20%, it's taking the additional 15% from Valley of Death. So with the two Mark for Death stacking, I feel that the 15% additional damage is the way to go. Our next will be Wolf Companion. This build does run a good amount of cooldown reduction, and since it runs a good amount of cooldown reduction, we can actually have Wolf up 100% of the time. The only time it's not is usually, running between long spouts where there's no packs near each other. So, but during the crucial timing, Wolf Companion is up. Our passive skills awareness, always good. Numbing traps. So our numbing traps, since it's slow, chill, or hit with fan knives, spike traps, caltrops, grenades, sentry fire, we slow. Our multi-shot slows. Our spike trap procs it. Our Bane procs it. So we have multiple ways of doing it, and since we're always constantly up in the group, we are always going to be slowing. So we're going to be providing 25% damage reduction to our party. Like I said, awareness, it's just a must. Second life. Tactical advantage, that helps us move between packs because Demon Hunter is, and it's really fun actually, we're kind of the people in charge of moving the group ahead, finding packs, pulling packs together. When the big pack is pulled, we're in charge of running around picking up little guys here and there. It's kind of like we're a type of like a scout. We're just checking ahead, looking everywhere. So you want to be able to be very mobile, and tactical advantage is your go-to there. Now, Blood Vengeance, like I said, there's so many globes proccing all the time, so we can just be blowing through hatred and discipline, but Blood Vengeance is keeping us up just due to the massive amount of globes that are popping up. So that's the build. So my build right now is for speeds, so it's more of low 80s to mid 80s is what I'm running for speeds right now. But the difference is when you're pushing into the higher 80s, into low 90s, whatever you're pushing to, Spike Trap will be subbed out for Sentry Guardian Turret, and that lays down the turret. That gives a 25% reduction. The only problem, due to past seasons when Marauders was just so much just stuff on the screen for other classes, sentries, they made it so they're kind of, a little bit stealthed now. They're a lot harder to see, is that when we do lay down the bubble, it is very hard for the wizard or the people in the group to see. So since it is harder, it's kind of just your job, and it's a real trust issue to make sure that you're throwing it on top of your party and you're making sure it's up for them all the time. So it's more of just, making sure that you're on top of making sure sentries are out all the time. So that is changed. But the good thing is that's really the only difference between a speed spec and a pushing spec, is just that Echoing Blast Spike Trap turns into the Sentry Guardian Turret for higher pushing. So not much of a change in the passives and the skills that we use between the two. So we're going to skip over now to the gear, and there's a lot of possibilities, and there's a lot of different variations of things you can do with the gear. So I'm going to go over what I'm using, and I'm going to talk about a couple different things you can use. So we'll just go over the gear, and I'll explain the couple different variances. So first we'll start off with the Calamity. The Calamity, like I said, Marked for Death out, really viable, amazing, and I rolled attack speed. That's really important. We'll just go over the rolls as we're going through it. Attack speed, that means more balls getting out, that means more multi-shots getting out. It means that we're proccing more globes. So, and I have Dex Invite on it. We could have cooldown on there, but we're already at the cooldown what we need to be for having all of our abilities up all the time. So there's no problem really with how this spec is set up. So with that spec being fine, there's no real need for having cooldown, but you can have cooldown. I mean, hatred regeneration is okay. I'm just gonna go with Dex Invite and attack speed, just because that's really, in my opinion, the best setup for your weapon. The rings, like I said, keep in mind, this is the XP, my speed farm. So you're going to see a couple pieces that I will explain why they're there and what you will change. I have the Obsidian Ring of the Zodiac, absolutely vital. Like I said, you have the cooldown, and what this does is it makes it so our woof is up all the time. And since the only skill that we have is woof buff for the speed farm, it's really nice because it makes it so there's no problem with it going to a different cooldown. It's all going to Wolf Companion, so we can make sure to have Wolf Companion up all the time. It's just all around really great. And when we go to the higher, when we swap Echoing Blast Spike Trap for Sentry Guardian Turret, it does chunk down that Guardian Turret laydown time between the cooldown of each sentry, that it's not really a factor into making it so our woof isn't up. Again, the woof buff isn't up 100% of the time. So Obsidian Ring really is great. The next are the Saint Achuse Gauge. Yeah, I know I say it weird. Like I said, just crit chance, attack speed, cooldown are just the main go-tos for this build. So I have the toughness on the gloves, the dex and the vite, and then I have the attack speed and the crit chance. A second thing you do want to look out for, which is really nice, and it'll make your job a lot easier, is that as we're playing through the rift, and you'll see it in the video in a bit, since there is no witch doctor and we're taking their spot, we need to be the ones picking up the globes. And since we're the ones picking up the globes, it's really actually nice on our secondaries to have these health pickup radius, the health and globe pickup radius. It makes it a lot easier for us to be running around not having to pick up, every single piece of bulb as in, right in front of us. It gives us a lot better of a, being able to just kind of skirt along instead of having to run to every single globe. So you'll see that on a few pieces of gear. Shoulders are really nice to have. I have ancients. You can go with a few other shoulders. It's nice to have shoulders with double secondary, where you could have health globes, heal for more, pickup radius. Like I said, there's better choices, but like I said, for speed running, I'm not too concerned as long as I have shoulders that give me just a lot of toughness. You could roll cooldown if you wanted, but I just use it. Like I said, I have no problem with my cooldown, so I just use it as nice defense. It's just like a stat stick, basically, just making sure I live. Leorix is a must. I have an ancient. I have the crit chance rolled on it. Health globes. Like, this is pretty much my ideal piece of gear. Obviously, you could get your 2% more on the increases effect of any gem, and you could have a little more dex invite. But I mean, this is your go-to Leorix Crown. So for me, again, I'm using it for XP, and I know it is weird, and everybody's like, oh, the XP meta, it's dead, we don't need to do it anymore, but duplicating to have 8.2% more XP when I don't need the health is really nice, or I don't need the cooldown. So if you are pushing, you would obviously swap out the ruby for an amethyst to give you more toughness. The amulet, and you can use a hellfire amulet, you could use a immunity amulet, but I'm using the overwhelming desire just to make it so chance on hit to charm the enemy and make them take 35% more damage. So just more damage. Chest piece, Aquila's is really nice for this piece. I don't have even a remotely decent Aquila's yet, even this far into the season. So I'm just using a really nice, just chunky, just toughness chest piece, and again, globe pickup radius, really nice. So that's my chest piece. Like I said, you can use an Aquila's, and that would definitely help. Bracers, the two bracers you want to go between are Nemesis bracers and strong arms. So I have my strong arms in the cube, so I'm using my Nemesis bracers. So again, it's just so you can pull the pylons. And since you don't have a witch doctor, it's your job to take care of that. So we have the Nemesis bracers. So just nice and chunky, just toughness and crit chance to make sure we're getting as high crit chance as we can to proc those globes. And we'll go over how we're procking globes in a little bit. String of ears. Now the other build, this setup I was doing was I was trying to use two-piece Marauders with Cloak of the Garwolf, and then I was using Zoe's Secret with that. So the amount of companions I had, you know, you have the standard setup of companion of your two ferrets, your spider, your boar, your wolf, your raven, your bat. But on top of that, I had the Cloak of the Garwolf to give me an extra two wolves. And while it was nice for that two set with the cloak and the Zoe's Secret to have the 9% damage reduction per companion, was amazing defensively, but the problem I kept running into was having that they have a lot of collision detecting, and they would stop a lot of the groups from being pulled, and it kind of made it a real hassle to get groups pulled together. So that is an option for you. You can do that if you're feeling like, oh, you know, you're really weak, maybe your toughness isn't where it needs to be. That's it's a good go-to. I mean, at the least you could use just Cloak of the Garwolf to have 3 wolves and use the belt, but I really wanted the Marauders to be nice, but there's just so much collision detecting from 3 wolves, a spider, and a boar. All of them have it, so it makes it really hard for the monk and the barb to pull. So I got rid of that. It was really nice being able to live through anything, but it's not viable. So I went with String of Ears, 30% damage reduction from melee attacks, and just pure defensive stats. You got your dex, fight, all resist, and life percent, so really solid belt. Our other ring I'm using again, I mean, you might be like, oh, shut up about it, but I'm going just quick XP runs in this spec. So I have a Leoric Signet on, and 29, so 2.9% XP, 2.9 plus your 8.2. It's a decent amount of XP, and I mean it's nice. And as long as you're not hurting the group and you're still moving at quick rates, you know, finishing a few good minutes before whatever time you're finishing, as long as it's not making it more difficult, then it's nice to have the extra XP. So I just went with that. Had the attack speed on it, had the crit chance, so it's not like we're missing out on anything. So no biggie there. Pants, there's no real best in slot. It's just whatever is your best pair of pants. I mean, you can craft Scalon's Deceit to, you know, just be able to make pants over and over and over and get your ideal set of pants, but you want Dex, Fight, All Resist, and like I said, health pickup, your health globe pickup radius, and having health globes grant more health is nice, but it's just basically the best, highest defensive toughness pants you have. Our boots, our illusory boots, makes it so we can move through enemies unhindered. I haven't tried these until this season. It was really weird to use them, but it is really nice. Just lets you just move motionless, just through everything. No hassle getting stuck. And then last is our meticulous bolts. I'm having bad luck with meticulous bolts as well. But you want your crit chance on there. You got good attack speed. You want your elemental ball lightning to travel as slow as possible, 30%. I have bleed on it. Like I said, it's really bad. You could have cooldown. You could have life percent. There's so many other things you could have, and this is the worst. But it's just as long as you have the slow ball quiver, it's good to go. So that's the gear. The only other thing I've been looking at is that Saint Shoes are nice because when you do engage your pack, it does give you that life absorb. That life absorb is nice, but it's only for a bit, and it's only when you're engaging your elites. But I was looking at running stone gauntlets for the immobilize, but you don't want to sacrifice just to have stone gauntlets. If I can get a decent pair with attack speed and crit chance, I will probably end up using stone gauntlets for speeds. I think Saint shoes are still better for pushing, but for speeds I think stone gauntlets would be far better. And then the sub out for the Leorcs when you're going to higher is having an Oculus Ring. Oculus Ring, go to attack speed, get your crit chance on there. Vite's nice. Give your wizard another spot that he can step in. Maybe yours could pop up, be more safe. So those are the only real discrepancies. So that's the build we went over. That's the gear. And we'll go over the gems. So the way, like I was saying before, is our crit chance. Now, my crit chance is 59.5. And something that a lot of people don't know is that you can't ever actually reach 100% crit chance. The game only allows you to get to 95. So with our 15% from multi-shot wind chill, so we'll just say we'll basically have 60%. I mean, I could roll this higher. It's 60%. From 60% with the 15% from wind chill, you're already at 75. With our ice blink, 75 goes up to 85, and then from the barb with his ancients, they're actually applying 10% crit chance as well. So we're at 95. That's the cap. Going any higher than that is completely useless. I mean, if you have above 95% crit chance, that including all the things I just mentioned, you can definitely drop crit chance, pick up more tankiness, maybe more cooldown, whatever you need. So 95 is the cap we're actually looking for. So that's why we're using Ice Blink, is to give us that crit chance cap. Gogok is what, along with Obsidian Ring, is making it so we have the Woof up full time. Not only that, it gives us the attack speed. So we get our 15% attack speed, and we have our cooldown reduction of 15%. That with Obsidian Ring, and just from those two alone, really, we have our cooldown on a couple pieces of gear on our amulet, on our Obsidian Ring. Just from those few things and our Paragon points, we do have 100% uptime of Wolf. So definitely use a Gogok. And then our defensive gem is Esoteric. Esoteric is by far the best defensive gem there is. Hands down. Absolutely hands down. Mine's at 85, 52.5% non-physical damage reduction, and below half health you get a 75% bump. And as you can see, my all resist right here, 1245. It just makes it so you drop below 50%. You're absolutely, it's really hard to die. So that's the gems that go along with the build. So the one of the last parts we want to go over is the cube. Now, like I said, globes are the name of the game for 4-man. So making Demon Hunter really viable, Selenium. Selenium is critical hits have a 4% chance to spawn a health globe. That's why we get our crit chance. That's how we're really helping the group with our wind chill from multi-shot, is that 15% that we're applying for the rest of the group plus our ice blink. We're giving them 25% chance to crit. So we're helping our monk and our barb create more globes for our wizard, and we ourselves are creating globes. That's something the witch doctor doesn't do. That's how, even though they give great attack speed, they give great damage, we're giving globes as well. So it's really at times better. Sometimes witch doctor has better spots, sometimes demon hunter has better spots. It doesn't matter. It's making it so we're viable. Like I was saying before, you either use the NEMs or use strong arms, and the whichever one you're not using goes in the cube. So strong arms in the cube. The way we are proccing that again is rattling roll. Rattling roll does proc our strong arms, so you do want to be rolling in the group sometimes. And then last is elusive ring. Elusive ring, it does look, I don't have that much toughness, but with the elusive ring, you get your 60% damage reduction. It's really raising your toughness up. So, and whenever we're vaulting, and vaulting procs our strong arms, so we're doing that pretty much a lot of the time. That's how we're getting our toughness. That's how we're getting our strong arms procced. So tumble actually is really holding together what we use in our cube besides the selenium. So that is the cube, and then the last is paragon point priority. You want to have maximum hatred, definitely. You want your movement speed to be at whatever. I mean, I have 12% movement speed. I'd much rather that be armor, but it's not. So make sure you have 25% movement speed, the rest into vitality. Offense, it goes cooldown reduction to crit chance to attack speed to crit damage. Crit damage is useless. I mean, the reason I go cooldown before is that crit chance is only 0.1 for every paragon point you do put into it. So I'd like to get something that's more... It's literally double the speed to get to max. So we're getting 10% versus having 5%. You're getting 0.2 per point versus 0.1. So you can switch it up. It's not that big a deal. So crit chance, cooldown, or cooldown crit chance, and then do the opposite of whichever you did. So cooldown, then to crit, crit to cooldown, and then to attack speed, and to crit damage. Just, it doesn't matter for crit damage. As for defense, it's all resist, life percent armor, life regeneration. Utility, when you do get up into the higher greater rifts, and when you're pulling large groups, area damage and life on hit can cause that lag, and you'll remember a lot from Season 4 and Season 5, it can still happen. So if you want, you can take off your area damage and life on hit. So resource cost reduction is a must. You don't need area damage whatsoever. Life on hit, maybe you're taking a little bit of damage, it's okay to have that, but area damage is just useless for our Z DPS for our Demon Hunter. So that's the spec. I hope I covered everything, and we will now jump over to a video. We'll go over a few key points, and we'll talk about what we need to be doing in a Rift to make it viable, and see actually how much fun it is to actually play 0 DPS and be efficient in Greater Rift. So let's hop over to that. Alright, so as you see, we're going to plug in a Greater Rift and get going here. And I'm sorry, this is from my Twitch stream, so you are going to have to deal with looking at my face for this one. But this is support Demon Hunter. So as we're going through, you're going to see we're going to be shooting slow balls a great majority of the time. When we're shooting the slow balls, we will also multi-shot, make sure that the crit chance is out, our ice blink's procced. We'll be running ahead a lot. We'll be looking for the groups. When our barb and our monk find a group, we will then be skirting off to go look ahead, scouting like I was saying before, for more density, something either for us to move on or maybe to pull back to the group like here. But besides that, it'll mostly be just running about, looking for density, looking for elite packs, seeing if there's a good place to pull everything. But that will be our job. So you'll see here, we'll make another group right here, and we'll pull from the other room, check, and then we'll actually go and check the other way. So we found our elite there, and we'll call to the group that we found an elite, run back up, make sure everything's good, and then we will then get down to the elite with the rest of the group. So that is just, it's a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, we're not doing the damage, but it is really a lot of fun running around and being like in charge of the group. It's a new experience, I'll say that for sure. Now, a lot of the time you want to be moving before the group is to get ahead of them to go scout. You'll find an area for them to fight, and then we'll go pick up more. But here, since again we're the Nemesis wearers, we're going to be the ones proccing. And an important thing that I see some people, Demon Hunter or not, is that they like to find a pylon and just pop it just because something's near it. But you want to make sure that the wizard has time to set up a slow time. It's important for them to have their slow time for the group to take reduced damage, as well as set up to make sure that they have their tornadoes out while the slow time is out, making sure it's just on top of whatever pylon you do end up receiving that you have the max amount of damage regardless of what is going to be there. You want to make sure that you're in proper placements for pulling groups and making it the most beneficial DPS-wise for the wizard, and the best way to pick up globes and everything like that for the for you, since you're picking up the globes, and to make it so the barb and the monk are in the ideal spots for pulling the groups. Here again, like I said before, you want to be running ahead and checking for density, and it really is a lot of fun being in charge of the group, telling them where they need to go, telling them where the density's at, pulling the groups together, making sure it's all around the monk and the wizard and the barb, and then again going ahead, looking for density, checking where you're going to be moving, where your next moves are going to be, everything like that. So right there was a good example of where we're moving off from the pack to go ahead and scout forward. So although, like I keep saying, it is important for us to scout ahead and make sure that the group is as big as it can be, you want to be making sure to come back every now and then if you don't need to be that far ahead. You want to make sure that you can get the wizard, your wolf buff, your mark for death, your spike trap, your slow ice blink, and your multi-shot for the other 0 DPS, and make sure that they're going to have maximum uptime of your buffs, as well as being able to move ahead and go check. So now we're going to skip to the Rift Guardian, and a trick that's really important to pay attention to for pushing and for speedruns. So we'll go ahead and skip to that now. So something you're about to see is with the pylon usage. And what that is that for one thing, before you get to your pylon, when you're popping your Rift Guardian, right there I picked the spot that we needed to tank the Rift Guardian. It's going to use the Wizard's Tornadoes, the best spot. Corners are amazing for them. One thing we're going to do is that I'm going to move away and the Barb's going to TP it down. This allows the pets to let the Rift Guardian get pulled to the location. And we saved a pylon, and the reason we saved a pylon is because, one, it gives us an extra pylon effect, so that's beneficial. Two, when I use Nemesis Bracers, it will spawn the elite, and when we spawn that elite, it will then be able to be used for multiple reasons. So one thing you need to look out for is when you do pull it, you do have to keep them at least a screen and a half, or they will disappear. So as you can see, I'm trying to kite them, making sure they're still on the screen. The second thing that's really useful about having a pack is, one, it's just great amounts of globes, and globes equal wizard does more damage. Two is that all the minions and the elite will be giving off area damage. Area damage is amazing. It'll melt the Rift Guardian. As you see, it's an 82. It's not really high up, but the wizard just absolutely melts the Rift Guardian, so it's amazing. So just a couple of points. You get the pylon, you get the extra globes, you get the area damage, Rift Guardian gets melted. So that's a few things you do. There's just so much that can be done with this, and it's a lot of fun. So if you like the video, give it a like, sub to the channel if you're interested in future guides, and I will see you then. Thanks for watching, guys.